The first is this idea that it's better to assume similarity and explore difference than to assume difference and ignore similarity. And I don't say that just to make a fancy sentence which kind of leaves you all baffled. I say this as a very deliberate response to those who've said to me for many years, this is a whole new form of storytelling. You need to forget everything you know and kind of rethink the paradigm. Crap! Again, I point to history and go, we've never replaced a storytelling form and we've never changed what a story was. All we did was add more color to the palette. And that's cool and that's interesting, but we need to know how to use it. So rather than say video games, interactivity and interactive narrative is nothing like cinema, I'd prefer to go, you know what, it's kind of a lot like cinema, and let's understand it as that and then explore how it's different. Rather than assume difference and you end up just stumbling in the dark, let's recognize that each new storytelling form picks up from the media forms that went before us. This even has a name, they call it in media studies circles, remediation, which I thought was something you did to landfill, but apparently you do it to media forms. This idea of remediation is where new media forms borrow from media forms that went before and expand and build upon in a new language. So if we can recognize that, okay, let's start that an interactive online multi-platform experience is borrowing heavily from the book and the playhouse and the cinema and the television. We can put ourselves in a position to go, okay, but where's that extension? Where's that possibility? Where does my process change to engage with what's useful? Otherwise, we just throw babies out with the bathwater. And again, I think there's a lot of interactive multi-platform that is exactly that, babies out with the bathwater. So obsessed with the new technology, they forgot to tell a story. They forgot to make you care. There's only one reason people watch stories or read them. We like to worry. That's what human beings do. We like to worry, and your job is to make me worry more. Whether it's comedy, dramedy, tragedy, it doesn't matter. It'll be a case of how badly can you make me worry about whether the mother's going to be back with the mother's going to be reunited with the daughter, or the guy's going to make it out before the bomb goes off, or whatever it is. Make me worry. And this is where we fall down if we fail to recognize those core principles. So, transmedia, multi-platform, interactive storytelling. Here's three things I want to break it down to, three very old ideas. The word trans means to move. Transport, transplant. The word trans is Latin derivation, means to move. So, if trans means to move, then when a story moves, it adapts. That's what happens. If I take someone who lives in Byron Bay and I transplant them to my hometown in Newtown, in the middle of Sydney, they will adapt or die. They will change. Likewise, take one from the city and move them to a kind of laid-back, don't need a watch kind of lifestyle, which I kind of envy right about now, they will adapt. Stories do this. When we move a story to a new platform, it adapts. When we move a story from a play to the radio, it adapted. It changed. It had to use more of this and less of that. This idea is important because if we can understand that story in a transmedia sense is about adaptation, we go, okay, I get it. Adaptation. As a writer, you should have pretty good skills at adaptation. If you're working in screenwriting, this should be part and parcel of bread and butter work. How do you adapt a story from one form to another? How do you identify an essence of that story? So skills in adaptation are really, really important in the multi-platform space. And if you've got any skills in being able to look at a novel and think about it as a screenplay, or look at a poem and think about it as a stage play, then you are exactly the sort of skilled people I want in this space. It's about saying I have a central experience, and what other media forms can I draw into that central experience rather than push it out onto other platforms. It comes to something I'll get to at the end, which is this idea that this problematic idea that transmedia is often perpetuated is that more is more and more is better. You should only have those platforms that matter. And if you get to the end of a story world development process and find, hang on, there's only two, then great. That's the best thing I've heard in a long time, because I'm getting a bit tired of pitches that go, and I've got this, and I've got that, and I've got that, and 5 out of those 10 didn't matter. They were kind of trivial or tokenistic. And nobody wants a multi-platform project where some of the other platforms are just add-ons or just tokenistic. Make them count. You can make them count by driving the audience to them, or you can make them count by pulling them in. And both these are very valid, and I'll hopefully show you some examples of both those techniques. So I want you to think about drawing in as much as extending out in terms of what media can you deploy.